you guys stuff like that.
They just did.
That was for you.
Oh, it doesn't matter what I do now. You're still going to clap for me here. So for those of you that are new to this process or just need a refresher, I'm going to go over our performance review process. So everyone in this room should have goals. It's important to have goals, and I have most of yours logged, which is great. Goals are good to go over every one-on-one or every couple one-on-ones with your mentor, your project executive, because by this Thanksgiving, goals are going to be getting reviewed. You're going to have your initial review with your executive. Following that discussion, the executives are all going to sit in a room and get their official review done. And after that, total comp sheets will go out. So that means that you're going to have your executive sit with you and go over any changes or adjustments made and get your official final review done by January 1st, the first payroll week of January. That's when you're going to sit and you're going to go over your 2018 goals going forward. That's how the process has been, and I think it's a really good idea to come prepared to that final meeting with your executive to get your total comp sheets with your own goals in mind. Instead of getting goals handed to you based on your position and your title, it might be a good idea to come up with your own goals for yourself. Like an SPM financial goals might be different from a PM1 financial goals. So think about what you want to obtain for the next year. That way you can own your own goals and come to that meeting, that final meeting with your executive with your own goals in mind, get feedback from them, and decide together what your goals should be for the next year and go forward with it.
So that's really important. That's kind of the basis of the whole thing that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Owning your own goals and coming up with your own goals. Traditionally, a lot of times we get goals are handed to us from the top down. Like, you meet with your senior, and your senior says, "Hey, look, next year, here's what your goals are going to be," and you go, "Okay, great, I'll do my best and see how I do at it." What we're suggesting to you is that whenever you have your goal review meeting before the end of this year, that you sit down with your senior and you come with your goals in mind. I actually suggest you do this with your performance review too, but that's not what we're talking about today. I would suggest you do your own performance review before you get reviewed so you can kind of analyze where you're off. If you think you're at a 10 and they think you're at a 5, then you need to figure out why there's that gap. So same thing with goals. So come to your goal meeting with your goals worked out. So if you need the goal sheet, what the sheet looks like, Taylor can send it to you. But come to the meeting prepared to say, these are going to be my goals for next year. This is what I'm going to target.
So some tips on how to set your own goals.
Yeah.
Matt will go over.
So we've been doing a lot of technical skills. Usually is what we do in here. We're talking about Procore, we're talking about financial burn. So Tom and I and Taylor were looking at this and we said, why don't we every once in a while do a little bit more of a soft topic to help kind of your leadership development and that kind of stuff. So one of the things that was timely was for us to do goals. So these are just a few tips on how to do your goal planning. So I'll give you some tips and then I'll kind of give you some sources on where you can find some of those things. So the first thing for goal setting is start with the end in mind. So what I mean when I say that, if you're setting goals for 2018, what you should be doing is looking at the end of 2018 and looking back to say, what would I have hoped to accomplish in 2018? So if you're sitting here now, looking back at 2017, what did you miss and what would you have hoped to accomplish? Same thing with 2018. So go all the way forwards and say, what are the key areas and key things that I want to develop in myself in 2018 to help my career growth? So part of that is determining what your key roles are. So when I say key roles, I mean, what is it that is really the focus of your job responsibility? For some of you, a PE, your key role is going to be managing submittals, RFIs, handling the day-to-day stuff on the job. If you're a senior PM, your key roles might be financial projections, but also a big part of that is your mentoring and your development of your project team. So identify what your key roles are, and this is going to help you focus on what are going to be the big picture things that you really want to focus on for the year. So not just small details like I want to make sure I get my payouts in on the 25th of each month and get paid by the 25th of the following, which I think is a great goal, and it's actually one of the suggestions I have. But I also think you should identify what your key roles are and help you prioritize the things that you think you need to be working on for the year. So suggested reading for this, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's a book from 30 years ago. It's been around, a very popular business book for a long time, and it has an entire section on goal setting. It's really good. They talk a lot about starting with the end in mind. They talk a lot about like setting out, like say, for example, you set out your week and you say, this is my goal for this week. So maybe you say, I want to work out 2 times this week for 30 minutes. That's going to be my goal, work out 2 days for 30 minutes. And at the end of the week, you look back on it and say, did I hit that? And if you did hit it, then great. If you didn't hit it, then why did did you not hit it? So you do the same thing with your goals. Why did you not hit it? Maybe there's a good reason. Maybe something came up and you should not have worked out. Or maybe you just sacrificed it to something that's less ideal toward your overall key role in developing your health. Maybe you just sat out and vegged in front of the TV for 2 hours a day instead. So anyway, keep going.
There's no need to put your workout schedule on your goals for this year.
At least not on the goal sheet that we're doing here. But it could be a good goal sheet for you to have a personal goal sheet or a personal mission statement. So some more tips for goals. This is one that's really hard, I think. Make your goals measurable and difficult. So the intent, so I'll start with measurable. So your goals need to have something that you can measure and determine if you're doing it. So if, for example, you're a leader of a project team and you said, my key role is to lead my team, to lead my PE, lead my superintendent, help develop my project team, and you said, my goal for next year is to be a good leader. That's a good result to want, but what's the goal that you're going to say at the end of next year? If I look back, did I improve on my leadership skills? This sometimes, when it's soft skills, is really, really hard to do. So we were talking to Louise yesterday, who's a consultant of ours. She said, when you're looking at these kinds of things, think about how you're going to measure the results, not necessarily the action items to get there. For me, sometimes that's really hard. So if I can't think of how am I going to be a better leader, I might measure some measurables to say, well, what can I do to develop my leadership skills? And let me measure if I'm doing those things. So that's kind of what I would suggest. And I'll show you on some of the suggestion goals on that, what Matt Hurley and I have done in the past. The second part, difficult. So the goal should be achievable, but not easy. So if you hit 100% of your goals in 2018, you sandbagged. You did not set a high enough goal. So,
or you're really, really, really good.
Or you're really good, but you shouldn't be really good every year. You should not be able to hit all your goals. So something that I've been subscribing to, what's up, Ronaldo? Is this, Google has this process called OKRs. It's not Google's process, it's a process that's used across many, many different industries, but Google has been using this process since they had about 50 people in the company. I think they're over 100 now, right? Fact check out, yeah. So there's a really good video, and I'll send out this PowerPoint for you guys that I would suggest you watch. It's about an hour and a half, and it's a startup lab taught by somebody that works for Google, teaching startups how to implement these goals. It's called Objectives and Key Results, which preaches this whole thing. But the big thing that they say is measurable and difficult, and Google tries to get you at about 70% achieving, right? So if you get a 70% of your goals, that's about the target. It means you set high goals that were unattainable, but you strived high to get them. So if you just set it out and said, I'm going to get paid within 90 days every month, and I hit my goal, I should get a 5 on my performance review. That's not what we're trying to do here. So once you've set out your goals, in 2018, you're going to want to look back at your goals at some sort of frequency. You and your direct report are going to want to do that together. So assuming you guys are doing your one-on-ones, which should be one of your goals for both of you guys. Both of you should have a goal that has to do with one-on-ones. And you'll see it's on the chart. There's a spot rate for it. And every quarter, I would suggest you get with your direct report and say, how am I doing on my goals? And maybe I need to tweak my goals for the rest of the year. So if you set out goals for 2018, and at the end of the first quarter, you thought you were going to be working on one project, and you get switched to a different project or a different role, or you get promoted or you get transferred, any of those kinds of things, you're going to want to tweak your goals. So that way you're not looking at the end of 2018 and going, well, I set that goal back in December of last year, but it was a really dumb goal. You should be tweaking your goals and then also seeing how you're doing at measuring against the goal. If you're doing really poorly, maybe it's not a good goal, or maybe you're just not doing a very good job. So you want to look at it and figure out why you're doing poorly or why you're doing really well. Same, just like Nate was talking about financial projections. And then, yeah, that was the second part I talked about here. So real quick before I go, so one thing I want you to try to do when you're doing your goals for 2018, don't worry about your performance review being affected by your goal setting. So what do I mean by that? So if I were to say, I'm going to set a really lofty goal and I'm going to try and get paid in 15 days every month by the owner, and I miss that goal, but I get paid in 20 days by the owner every month, I will have missed my goal. But because I set such a lofty goal, I'm still going to be performing better against my peers, right? So don't sandbag your goals because you think that you're going to, at the end of next year, go, hey, look, man, I hit all my goals. Why didn't I get a 5? You want to set goals that make it to where you're trying to strive. And some of these goals are going to be just job-based description things on what you're going to do, how you're going to do it, when you're going to do it. And some of these things are going to be growth goals that are going to be harder for you to define what the goal is. But I would suggest to you that you try and spend some time thinking about it, because I think it'll help you strive to achieve what the next level is that you're looking to go to. So here are a few suggestion goals that I came up with. Some of these I've used in the past, some of these I just made up. So this is our associate named Jack Marius, Tax Theratrix, and his supervisor is Secretary Jefferson. So we've got two sections of the goal sheet. We've got behavioral goals, and then we've got technical goals. So the technical goals are probably going to be a lot easier for you to identify and define what your goals are and to measure them. The behavioral skills are some of the things that I find harder to come up with goals on. So some of these goals, like Matt Hurley and I, when we were sitting going together, we were saying, all right, let's set our goals for these things and let's try to find some measurables on them. So here's just some examples of what those might look like. So ingenuity. This guy's a PM, so he's got some sort of leadership role in the company. He's probably leading at least one APM, PE, something like that. So he wants to develop his management and leadership skills. So how do you measure that? I don't know. Maybe there's a better way that I've got to put some more thought into it, goals. But so Matt Hurley and I said, well, let's say, how are you going to get better at leading? Well, leaders are readers. So why don't we just say you're going to read this many management or leadership books this year, and by the end of the year you'll check those off. It doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be a better leader at the end of the year, but at least gives us something to measure that you're trying to advance yourself in that. Obviously, if you're doing that on your own volition and you're on reading, you're probably going to be a better leader because you have the initiative to want to do it, but this would just give us something to measure by. When we do his performance review, we could still look independently at how good of a job he did at leading, but at least this tells us he was taking the steps to get there. Initiative involvement, lead 4 training area sessions in 2018 and develop an SOP for an area of expertise. So you want to get involved, you're an SME. This could be one of your things. If you're not an SME, maybe one of your goals for next year is to become an SME on a subject, develop an SOP. There's going to be a huge opportunity for that coming up as we're trying to build out Kaufman University and make it one-to-one based and web-based. So we've got 2 separate aspects of the Kaufman University we're trying to build. So we're going to have a huge opportunity for SOP development. And then, so this is how to grow his leadership skills, but also maybe attend 4 training sessions in 2018, and he might target the ones that I think I want to get better at. Say I want to get better at buyout, financial burns, scheduling, whatever those things are. That you'll see we have a big menu of things that you can do training on that Taylor's sending out in our monthly newsletter now. So you can identify what those things are and find some sessions that you want to attend and get better at.
How do people get more involved if they want to? Like they want to be an SME or what is an SME for people who don't know it? And how do you do that? How do you, if you want to get more involved, how do you do that? What's the process for that?
So good question. An SME is a subject matter expert. So we have all of these things that we do onboarding for everybody here. Right now our process is all PMs go through 10 onboarding sessions, all PEs go through 5 onboarding sessions, and all supers go through 2 longer onboarding sessions. So each of those is taught by a subject matter expert. We don't just have one central trainer at Kaufman that knows everything. We have a bunch of different people that we've shopped it out to. And that's how we're going to continue to go going forward because it's the most effective use of our people and develops the leadership skills within the company as well. So probably most of the people in this room are SMEs in some topic, just by nature of the people that are here. But so some of you are not, some of you are newer. And like Adam has, one of his target goals is to be a subject matter expert, right? It's one of your goals is to join the SME team. So he's got to develop his skills enough in a certain area, and he just happens to be going through buyout. So he's finishing buyout, so buyout's a natural thing for him to say, all right, I just finished the process, I understand how Kaufman works, I know all the latest procedures that we're doing because I just finished it, I know how to use the newest form that just came out, all those things. So he's a perfect example to say, I want to do it. So he can talk to his executive, say, identify that I want that to be one of my goals, and then he can reach out to me, Taylor, or Tom. And now we have a new email address, klctraining@kaufman.com. You can always shoot emails to if you're curious, and that's where the
We
new
can put that in
training
the newsletter probably, in the next one, not November, but maybe December, we can highlight that to say, hey, if you're interested, here's the steps to take. But
It does say, news, if you're interested in becoming an SME, reach out to Taylor, but I'll just put the KLC training. Either one works.
Either one's fine. You can get them both. All right, Inquiry Method one-on-ones. So this one had one-on-one sessions with Project Engineer monthly. So that means in 2018 you're going to have how many sessions? Yeah. And then in addition to that, and I didn't just stop there. Initially I did stop there, and then I thought, well, I need some more goal than that because a lot of times our one-on-ones turn into job planning meetings. So I said discuss priorities, long-term career growth, performance. So one of those things is going to be measurable. One of them's going to say, all right, 12, I did 12 of them, good, I nailed it. The other one was going to be, how did I do when I sat in there and did them? Did I develop a relationship with him? Do I understand what his career path looks like? Do I understand the things that he wants to learn from me that I need to be teaching him? All that kind of stuff. So a few more examples. Of goal setting and the technical skills. I got a bunch of these. I'm not going to read through them all. Project closeout, get subs paid within 60 days of TCO. You can measure that. You say, did I get all my subs final closed out, final billing and paid within 60 days of TCO? Maybe that's not a realistic goal. Maybe you've got 16 different TCOs on your project. So whatever it is, you can look at that and say, I want this to happen by this date. Project startup, say you want 90% of your buyout done by March 31st. Pretty easy to measure. You can look at your buyout log on March 31st and see if I nailed it at the end of the first quarter. If you didn't, then maybe you need to set a new goal to say, all right, I only got the 75%. I need to get that next 15% by May 1st. Whatever those goals are. So these are some examples. Again, this PowerPoint I'll send out. You can look through these, but the key is don't just steal these. Think about where your aspect of growth for you personally is, and your goal should not be the same. If you're a senior PM, your goal should not be the same as a PM1. You should be setting a higher goal and hoping to attain it. Now, maybe you'll outperform that PM1 and still miss your goal, but you need to be setting a high goal that's causing you to think about how do I get better at my trade and craft my trade, and then how do I teach that to other people and help them develop theirs as well, so I can help the whole company grow. So.
What I wanted to also say is that what you see here, these forms, if you haven't seen the evaluation form, these are your personal goals as they pertain to these technical goals. These technical goals will be on your evaluation. So here's a chance on your goals to talk about project financials as they pertain to you and your specific goals for your year. But that's what you'll see when you get evaluated. How did you do with your project financials? Here's the weight that it weighs for you, and the score that your project executive then you decide on for yourself. So the chance for you to set your goals is on the goal sheet. The evaluation form reflects those goals and the topics.
And again, if I were you, and this is what I like to do when I do my reviews, when I go to my review that's coming up between now and Thanksgiving, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to rate myself on every one of these things so that I have an idea in my mind of what I think it is. And then if my senior, my VP, my PX, whatever, thinks that I'm better or worse, then we need to calibrate that and figure out what's the problem. Maybe he's wrong, maybe I'm wrong, maybe she's wrong. Good.
Any questions?
Questions, comments, additional things we missed?
Cool.
What about the review process?
The review process? What about it?
When do we get reviews?
I said in the beginning. So you're going to sit down with your executive by Thanksgiving and get your initial discussion in. Then after that, the executives are going to sit together in a room and go over your reviews. And then after that, a week after, you're going to get your total comp sheets and have your sit down with your executive to do your final goals, to get your changes or adjustments made, and that's when you'll sit down and do your 2018 goals going forward.
I just want to emphasize the review process and talk about, I think everybody's probably been through review processes in former lives, and a lot of people have been through them here at Kaufman Lynn. But some of the things that maybe you haven't experienced here because you're new, or you have experienced but don't understand everything that goes on behind the scenes, the level of detail that goes in and the commitment that goes in from the executive team in reviewing all of these. Every single associate at Kaufman Lynn is discussed in detail. I mean, the executives get together and spend a couple of days going through this, and everybody represents every associate that they work with. So we all get to know everybody within the company. So it's a detailed review process. It's not a check the box, let's run a percentage and see how things shake out. So I really want to let everybody know, the importance and the level of detail that we go. So, what Matt was talking about was, setting smart goals, and also spending the time going through establishing your goals, establishing your review before you sit down, so that you can have, really maximize that time that you're going to spend with your project executive going through it, making sure that it's really meaningful and very thorough. Because again, that gets reviewed in detail with the executive team.
Right, that's where I want to go to.
Taylor as well. The process from our standpoint is that Taylor and I sit down and we look at what market is, what's happened in the construction market in 2017. Are certain functions skyrocketing? Are they staying level? Have they gone down? What's the market like? So each position, we try to get every data point that we can, and we literally look at 4, 5, 6, 7 different surveys of companies. We match it with as close as we can to us, our size, what markets we're in, what areas we're in, and we come up with what the range is for, say, a project manager. Our intent is to map that against where your performance is and the overall theme, and we actually do a graph on every person. We show where they've been salary-wise, where they're performing, and then based on a big calculation that I do in the background, it says based on your performance and where you are on the scale, that's where your raise should be. And we just debate it, we talk about it, all kinds of circumstances, should it be more, should it be less, but it's our intent for us to be paying at market, so we need to define where the market is, and our benefits are really, really good. We don't want to pay on either side of the market, so we really look at between 25, 50, and 75% and see where you guys map on that. So it's not just, like Eric was saying, it's not just okay, let's throw something at the wall. It's pretty scientific. We want you to be where you are performing within the market.
And if you're performing on the high end of your scale, then we're going to want you to be on the high end. If you're performing on the low end of your scale, then naturally you should be on the low end of your pay. So
well, that's where
set high goals
and
and perform on the high
theory,
end.
if you're performing really, really high and you're below what the midpoint of the market is, you're going to get a higher raise. If you're performing mid or low and you're paid at the high end of the scale, you're going to get less. And that's just a way for people that are outperforming to catch up. And those that may be, at the top of the scale, it's hard to go above the top of the scale. Once the glass is full, it's full. Congratulations, you made it.
Cool. Thanks, Doug.
Any other questions or comments on goal setting or financials? So we're going to try and do these at some regularity of hard science. Monthly we're teaching some sort of hard science we're going to be taught on. Then we're going to try and do some soft science at least once a quarter, I think, of how to develop your leadership skills, how to develop your growth, that kind of stuff. So if you have any topics, again, at any point you ever have any topics you would love to either train on or get trained on, maybe you set that as one of your goals. I want to do a PM presentation on something that I think I'm really good at in 2018. Just email me, Taylor or Tom, or just klctraining@copland.com.
Also, for the 2018 goals, we're going to add a section, training and development, and that's where you can put your goal, be an SME for 2 topics, or lead one of these PM trainings. That's a good place to put what you want to do with training and development for the year.
So Nate, thanks for stepping up. And then next month we'll have, we have 2 topics next month. Is going to be BIM, introduction to BIM and what it means to you, taught by Zach Thompson. And then Jeff Zalkin's going to do a lesson on the interface between operations and marketing and business development, how to continue to have touch points at some regularity with your past clients, and what to do with project leads, those kinds of things on going forward, how you can get involved in business development and be a doer seller and advance your career in that.